I love Easter egg videos that you find on YouTube, with hidden message videos. I really appreciate when people take the time to break down videos in that manner. So this popped up on my timeline. Basically, it's Easter eggs that's in the movie Get Out. I love the movie Get Out. It was different. It was fun. I'm curious. I don't feel like I missed anything personally. So I we really dissected that movie kind of heavy when it came out. So I don't think there's anything else that got by me basically. So we about to find out. Let's get it started. My name is Jeff. Welcome to More Reactions. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Definition, and in this episode we're breaking down all of the insane details in Get Out. Since its release, the film has received a lot of acclaim, and it was even nominated for several awards, including Best Picture at the 2018 Oscars.
It was really good.
The movie is laced with a ton of foreshadowing and
it's
Easter
funny,
eggs
it's popped
that
up with
really
Kanye
elevate
this
it above a
past
lot of
weekend.
horrors. Throughout this video, we're
saying
going to
that
be
the movie
breaking
was
down the
about
best
him.
of them and discussing some of the hidden
The
meanings
movie Get Out
within
was
the film.
about him.
There will be heavy spoilers here, so if
A
you
lot of
haven't
people
had
were
a
saying
chance
that
to
when
check out the
we
movie
first
yet,
saw it, though.
then I highly recommend that you get out. That's my one and only bad joke of the video, I promise. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for videos like this every day, and please drop a thumbs up if you enjoy it. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into our breakdown of Get Out.
So, we'll see.
Okay, so if you haven't seen the film and are watching this video for whatever reason, I'll give you a quick overview of the plot. We follow Chris, a young photographer who goes to visit his girlfriend Rose Armitage's family. Upon arriving there, strange things begin to happen, and he unearths that the Armitages have developed a procedure in which they can transfer the minds of people into shell bodies. Chris is the next target, and he's auctioned off to the highest bidder.
When that scene happened, you knew shit was real.
He manages to escape before they can
Like,
carry out the procedure, and he kills the family, ending the film.
That's when it got
That's a brief overview,
super
but it's
uncomfortable.
just to get you up to speed before the breakdown. Now the movie opens with Andre Hayworth walking through a suburban area at night whilst he's on the phone to his girlfriend. Andre becomes a prominent figure later in the film, and we learn that he was actually subjected to the same procedure that Chris narrowly escapes from. A car drives by him and it begins to intimidate him before abducting him. Now there are a couple of things to take from this scene. Firstly, Rose is clearly on the phone to him, and this is how the car is able to track him. The person on the phone says stay put, we'll come and get you, to which Andre replies with there's no need. He gives his location, and then they show
That was Rose on the phone
Andre
with
got
him?
lost looking for Peacock Avenue, and it is likely that these directions were fake.
Oh,
Peacocking is a
I
term
know
that is
that.
often used to describe a male trying to attract a mate.
Oh,
but here it
snap.
could be twisted round to
Hold
Rose
on.
attracting Andre to this spot so that Jeremy can abduct him. The film is about
It
taking
does make
messages
sense.
and subverting
I guess
them,
it does make
and
sense.
I definitely think that this holds a double meaning here. Another interesting aspect is that the car that Jeremy drives is white on the outside and black on the inside. This is of course a nod to the fact that black people are later sent to the sunken place whilst a white person inhabits their shell. From here we cut to the title scene, which has blue writing over the top of a forest, which is intentionally meant to be a nod to The Shining, which is one of Peele's favourite films. After the brief credits sequence, we can hear the song Redbone by Childish Gambino. Not only is it a banger, it also has some elements of the song that play out here which foreshadow the rest of the film. The parts that we hear contain the following lyrics from the song: but stay woke, as in don't go to sleep Chris, they gon' find you, gon' catch you sleeping, as in don't go to sleep Chris, I'm telling you, and the chorus ends with now don't close your eyes, again highlighting this point.
Yeah.
I think I've officially got my street pass now for using the word gone. Now as we tour his apartment, we can see a white child wearing a dark mask and peering out from behind it. This once more is a reference to the white people wearing black people as a mask in the film. Upon Rose arriving there, we can see a chain that looks slightly like an unlocked slave handcuff, and though I may be reading into this, I think it highlights that Chris eventually ends up free from the family after almost becoming their slave. Rose sits about with the dog and then puts it down, saying that she has to pry something out of its dad. This is possibly referring to his brain, which they try and pry out at the end of the movie. Here they talk about her family and the line, "My dad would have voted for Obama a third time if he could have." This line appears again later in the film, and it could show that a lot of things that the Armitages talk about are scripted because they've went through the process numerous times. On a side note,
Damn.
I would have voted for a bomber a third time if I could have, so
Really?
the thumbs up button's right there. Now this idea of voting for a bomber is contested later in the movie at the party when we see that all of the guests wear something with red on it. This is except for Chris and Andre. They both wear blue, so it could represent Democrats versus Republicans, as these are the colours that both parties tend to don. I don't know much about American politics,
bit of a reach,
but if I
but
did,
alright.
I would have voted for... Never mind. The pair hit a deer out on the road, and this almost causes a car crash. The deer lies by the side of the road, dying, and this reminds Chris of the death of his mother, which we'll get into in just a bit. Now Chris actually seems distraught over this, whereas Rose doesn't really care, showing her disregard for life. A police officer arrives and asks for their ID, and Rose gets angry that Chris's ID is asked for too, and she kicks up a fuss with the policeman. We know from what happens in the movie that Rose actually argued over this because should Chris be listed as missing, the officer may remember his name and the car that he was riding in.
Right.
The license plate would too lead back to
She-
Rose
it
and
wasn't
the
nothing
Armitages,
about her
and
trying
thus
to
she
protect
talks him
Chris.
down from
It was
checking out who
protecting
Chris
the family.
is. They arrive at the house and there are 2 Omega symbols outside of it. According to Google, Omega is the last letter of the Greek alphabet, but most of the time in English, Omega is used as a symbol of the last, best, or final nature of something. So it could show that this is the end for Chris, and that the Armitages ultimately view possessing African Americans as the best thing to do for their final nature. I've not really seen anyone pick up on this one either, but it could also be a reference to American colleges, which sometimes have Omega in their house names. Colleges are also a sign of privilege, and this might be a reach, but it could signify their eliteness. Anyway, there's a ton of things outside the house and inside the house that foreshadow how the family view themselves, and they drop a couple of lines to show their ulterior motives. Dean goes off on a rant about how he hates deers and bucks, and after researching this speech on Reddit, I discovered that a black buck was a term used for black men who refused to bow to white authority, and this adds a lot of weight to the conversation. Dean gives a tour of the house and points out his family photo, which contains an image of his mother and father. The servants are nowhere to be seen in this, and we later learn that both of his parents were put into their bodies. The fact that the servants are missing, yet Dean states that they are so dear to the family, hints that they never actually existed as part of their household. Chris passes Rose sitting in front of a globe that has been turned to show Africa, showcasing that she views herself as being ahead of the continent. They also pass the statue of a wooden deer head, showing that Dean doesn't really hate them, as he has their form as an ornament and therefore was lying. He is of course stabbed with a deer head later in the movie, showcasing the reversal of the Black Book comment. Dean also brings up a photo of his father, who we learn was beaten by Jesse Owens in the qualifying round for the Olympics. We learn that he didn't really get over it, and it can be gathered from this conversation that this was the event that made his father believe that African Americans were superior. We later see Walter running at night, and this is likely because he's still obsessed with his loss. He wears a cap to hide his operation scar across his forehead, and the other people who've also had operations carry this out too. This includes Andre, who is now Logan, and he wears a hat, and Georgina is seen fixing her hair in a reflection, and this too could be to hide her scar. When Chris is out and about, he also sees her in a room adjusting her hairline again, bringing attention to this. Dean points at the basement and says, "Don't go down there, there's black mold." Later in the film, we learn that this is where the lab is kept. So this could actually be a double entendre, and he may mean that there is a black mold kept down there, as in a mold for another body. We are introduced to Georgina, and Dean says that his mother loved her kitchen, and he keeps a piece of her in there. He never says what that piece is, but as we learn, Georgina is his mother, and therefore this line holds an alternate meaning. At the table, Missy asks about Chris's mother, who we know died in a hit and run. She clinks her spoon against her glass as he does it, which sets off the idea of Chris's mother being connected to this. It's the first use of suggestion in the movie, but this clink also breaks Georgina out of her hypnosis for a second, and thus she is able to gain control slightly. She spills the drink, and it just gives away that something's not quite right with the character. Now shoutouts for Mr. Sharkpants on Reddit for discovering this, as I didn't notice it, but hats off. There's a sign of Georgina viewing Chris as less than they are, as she refills the Armitage's glasses first, even though Chris's is empty.
Wow.
Silver spoons are important as they are used as a way to control Chris, but they of course carry with them the meaning of a silver spoon, which is a sign of privilege. Jeremy is introduced, and he talks about MMA pretty quickly, almost seeming to guide the conversation towards it. He tries to grab Chris and remarks on how well he would do if he competed. This could hint at the fact that he wishes to take his body from him and use it as a way to become a sports star. After the awkward moment, Rose brushes her teeth in her ensuite next to a poster that says Death Cheater, which refers to how the family want to cheat death. Chris takes a trip outside before being hypnotized by Missy. We learn about Chris's mother's death in full and how when she died he was at home watching the TV. He said he did nothing whilst this happened and he just sat there. He was a passenger that wasn't able to save her, and we see in the sunken place that he too is adrift, unable to really move, whilst he watches the events play out before his eyes on a TV screen. As a child he scratched his bed, and as an adult he scratches at the chair arms, which eventually saves his life. Chris awakens to find his phone has been unplugged from its charger, and Georgina did this to make sure that it ran out of battery. When Chris talks to her, we can also see a sign beside his head that says Chris is dead. Come on man, they were telling you, get out! We meet Walter outside and hey, seems like a nice guy. How do fellow kids? He of course uses outdated slang like a real doggone keeper that highlights he grew up in another time period. When the guests arrive, they all show up in black cars, perhaps suggesting that they wish to be in a black vehicle. They hug Walter, showing that he's more than just a gardener, and many of them talk and ask questions based around things that they're interested in. An ex-golfer asks Chris if he's ever played golf, a woman asks if black men are better in bed whilst her wheelchair-bound husband sits beside her, and Jim Hudson, a blind art dealer, clearly wants him for his eyes. Rose and Chris also wear clothing that looks like they represent an American flag, and altogether there's just a weird vibe about the entire thing. I say that because we mustn't let black people know that we do this every weekend. Keep that secret, yeah? It's here that we meet Logan, aka Andre from the start, and he has no idea what a fist bump is, which reminds me of all the times I went in for the shake and got the bump. Sometimes you just don't know. Logan is with a woman much older than he is, and this was obviously his wife before the operation. He's then paraded about and made to spin around, showing that it was a success. Chris takes a picture of Logan, and this triggers him into shouting, "Get out." Hey, you missed that one, didn't you? Chris is sure that he met him before, and we learn from his friend Rod that he had. At this point they hold the auction for him, and this is very reminiscent of slave auctions of old. Jim wins and Jeremy looks angry, and I guess you'll have to find another way to compete in MMA, chum. Rose promises to take Chris home, but it's all a ruse to buy more time, and Chris finds photographs of all her exes. These later appear behind her on the wall above her bed. During this scene, Rose also eats cereal with the milk separate.
Weird.
This shows the separation of whiteness from a mix of colours, highlighting the views of the family. Everything goes crazy, and Chris is knocked out and shackled, bringing up the imagery of slavery. He manages to pick cotton out of the chair, which he stuffs into his ears, symbolising cotton picking, which slaves were often forced to do. Now it's during this that we cut to Rod, who is trying to get into contact with him. We can hear an announcement for Flight 237, which, yep, you guessed it, is another Shining reference. In the room that Chris is bound in, I did kinda get more Shining vibes from it too. The layout is very symmetrical, and that is quite a large characteristic of the set design in that film. The television set also resembles the television set from The Shining 2, as we can't really see the cable for it, and it's somehow turned on and playing. Chris has played a video that explains everything, and we can hear the slogan, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste." This was a slogan for the United Negro College Fund, highlighting the family taking black ideals and subverting them.
Wow.
Jim's brain is cut open, and I know that brain ops tend to look like this, but to me it also resembles an egg, a symbol of birth, perhaps hinting at the rebirth process that he's about to go through. Chris breaks free and beats Jeremy with a croquet ball, which is meant to mirror how he attacked him with a croquet bat earlier in the film. Dean is impaled with the deer head, and Jim is left paralyzed as the fire begins, commenting on the same immobility that he wished to place upon Chris. Chris kills Missy and grapples with Jeremy at the door, similar to an MMA fight almost, and I guess Chris would be good at it. He even escapes a sleeper hold. Well done. Chris gets into the car, finds Jeremy's night helmet, possibly being a symbol of the Crusaders, and the radio plays Run Rabbit Run, which was present during the abduction of Andre. Chris hits Georgina and takes her in the car. She lashes out at him and he crashes by the side of the road whilst Rose and her grandpa try and chase him down. Chris flashes his phone camera, which we saw worked on Andre, and he snaps out of it and then shoots Rose before killing himself. Rose apologizes to Chris as he strangles her, but he stops when he realizes that she's taking pleasure in it. The flashing lights of police then show, and Rose reaches out to them. In the alternate ending, this was going to be the police, and they would arrest Chris for killing the family, showing police prejudice, but in the end, Peele opted for it being Rod in his TSA vehicle.
So clutch, bro.
He did tell him not to go in the house, to be fair. The same song from the title plays, and this is an ancient song that when translated says to run. That ends the film, and that's pretty much all of the details in the movie, and I had so much fun rewatching this. It's one of the best horrors ever, and hopefully you enjoyed the breakdown as well. Now obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on the film, and if there's anything we missed. Comment below and let me know, and if you enjoyed this video then make sure you check out some of the insane details we noticed in The Haunting of Hill House. We point out all of the background ghosts and hidden meanings, so it's definitely worth checking out if you want something else to watch. If you want to support the channel from as little as 99 cents a month, then please click the join button below. We massively appreciate it, and as a thank you, you get access to content early. If you want to come chat to us after the show, either follow us at DefinitionYT or click the Discord link in the description below. Those are the best ways to keep up to date with heavy spoilers, so hopefully we see you over there very soon. This is a channel for people who are mad into movies, so if that's the kind of thing you like, hit subscribe. Huge thank you for taking the time to watch this. I've been Definition, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, I'm still stuck off of the very beginning. I didn't realize Rose was on the phone with him right before he got. I was on the phone with Andre right before he got abducted. I need to go back and watch that movie now. Like, hey, if there's anything that you notice that they didn't mention, leave it down in the comments, and so I can go back and research it. And yeah. Like right out the gate, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So no, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I enjoyed that video. Make sure you guys like the video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell and share the video. Like I said, like it so I can beat the YouTube algorithm, so my videos be shown to more people, so we can build our little tribe, because we out the mud. Love you guys. Stay safe. Peace out.